Hey Marauders, this is video 3.2, Patterns of Chemical Reactivity. In this lesson, you guys are going to learn a couple different types of reactions, and learning to categorize reactions is going to help you to identify some patterns, which will be able to make it easier to predict what's going to happen in certain chemical reactions. So the first one we'll look at is a combination reaction, also called synthesis. So a synthesis reaction or a combination is when you're building one thing. So you take two or sometimes three simpler, smaller parts, put them together to make one bigger, more complex part. So an example of this, carbon and oxygen coming together to make carbon dioxide. Pretty easy to recognize because you always have two reactants and one product. Decomposition is the opposite of combination. It's where you have one reactant and it breaks apart into two or occasionally three products. So an example would be with the lead-2 carbonate, and it would break down into lead-2 oxide and carbon dioxide. It's the exact opposite. So here we have one reactant breaking into two simpler, smaller products, whereas with the combination we had two reactants that were small and simple coming together to make one bigger, more complex product. The other type of chemical reaction you want to look at is the next type is combustion reaction. So a combustion reaction, like you might expect, is when something burns. Things that burn typically are going to be hydrocarbons. So things that contain hydrogen and carbon are generally combustible. And so they burn. You guys probably know that in order to have fire, in order to have a combustion reaction, you need to have oxygen. So these are going to be easy to recognize because oxygen is always going to be one of your reactants. You can't have fire if you don't have oxygen. And then on the product side, these combustion reactions are going to be making carbon dioxide and water. Carbon dioxide and water. All your combustion reactions make those products. You don't always notice the water when you have a combustion reaction because it's water vapor. Since it's at a high temperature, it turns to a vapor. That's what the G right there is representing. So those are combustion reactions. And the next type of reaction we'll look at is of the alkali metals. So the alkali metals typically react with water to form a metal hydroxide and hydrogen gas. So whenever you have an alkali metal, such as potassium, that's one of the alkali metals, it'll react with water to produce a metal hydroxide, in this case potassium hydroxide, and hydrogen gas. Don't forget, hydrogen gas is diatomic, so it's always H2. There are other types of reactions, but in this chapter, those are the only ones we're going to need. In the next couple chapters, we'll learn about single replacement and double replacement reactions.